Where very fair President Ban. Bombard from Bimba Berry, the President General, or time for me, what you must say, when I berry coordinator Pam. Wow, name Lingan for Bativisan for Sinkiling. Yes, that was in Gandia, bottom Binyoven, so we were to Fumbia. And from Madu Church and Kula, she lam the carriage when I lam so. More kidney. The team of presentation of culture of Orlando, our culture, our pride. Lee Wong Sok, the we win so. Ali Wong Sok Boo, that win so, and Drake, we were Denver. And as an claim on innovation, when I sent Kelly from the 1920s, and said Christianity win so. We try dry Bibili Wong so, it dry tabin, Bella Sok City. More out of St. Kiji for before, when Nansin one for the Bambi one. Why show would I know even your way? I could see Wong so I'll see like as in La Way Woon, they are some kind of often Wong so as most of us in you Loma Ali Wong person. Then can you hear more residency, more time for me for me can Kisunin? More residency win. See that we silly Wong so. Silly Wong so for Tabin. So first, because of that, has come up with the idea that they need to have a cultural renaissance to sustain our culture. If our culture is our pride, then we must protect it, we must preserve it, and we must promote it. I had a discussion with a town former of Shumas yesterday on one thing Danso has failed. We have a very rich culture, but we have failed to market that our culture. That is really the biggest problem that we have had. We have failed to market our culture. Imagine that, so it's the largest tribe, but we don't have a museum in Seoul that Seoul can boast of. I was speaking with former Shumas yesterday. If you go to Bamon, they have a big museum that generates a lot of income for the Bamon people. If you go to Nkwen, they have a museum there that generates a lot of income for the Nkwen people. What has happened with us? And the greatest problem we saw is, if I'm not the one to do it, then nobody will do it. I know of Allison here in the US, she has been fighting so much to have it done, but I believe that if we put our hands together, we can be able to achieve what we want to achieve. And let me I'll be talking about tradition. The tradition is what our forefathers handed to us. We have to really preserve and protect what our forefathers handed to us. And the culture, as we talk of culture, is how we practice what our forefathers handed to us. And with that comes the cultural renaissance with a big vision. And the big vision that we have in this renaissance is to bring the culture and subculture to the daily lives of all women. We have to, because if we don't do it, nobody will do it. And a lot of countries and regions have started doing that. We have conventions in Europe, we have conventions in the US. We used to have the Dongonso, but the question is in Cameroon itself, they don't have a convention where maybe in Douala could have a convention of where the gentlemen so it won't so bad on the yen Lord Yakumoki arcade convention no water Douala. If it's been so we change with a 4 year months or a party. And that's most lay I can lame off Kinki Friday, Saturday, Sunday, party bay. If it's 9 years there's in Gandia, Bar Bamli won't who are the Tabina. Then we must educate our people about our culture and tradition. If you look, there has been a lot of argument of what is true and what is not true. The question is the lack of education. Then the third thing is that we must support the pillars of our tradition. And when we talk of the pillars, what are they? Those pillars are our title holders. Our funds, we must support our funds. We cannot be misleading our funds, especially during these difficult times. We must support our shufais in our big compounds so that they can be better leaders for the various families. We must support our sheikhs, our informers, our years, because those are the pillars of our tradition. We must sustain and protect our secret societies. The secret societies, that there are so many of them. We have the Murong, we have the Ngiri, we have the Kikum, we have the Menang. Those are the societies that make us who we are. This cultural renaissance has not come to replace any of those secret societies. We have come to make them stronger. And one of the things that we are looking forward doing is the low-hanging fruits, like Foreman King usually says. We must support our cultural structures. The more Balailo and their shrine. How can we protect those places from destruction? Any building that has stood the test of time is a better place for us to sustain and promote our culture. And the last thing that we have to do is protect our language. If we look at the way everything is going, if we are not careful, maybe 3 generations from today, then so language will disappear. We don't want that to happen. And now, because of that, the so culture has come out with some goals and objectives. The first goal that we came out with was to preserve and protect our structures. And in order to do that, we have to partnership with our local communities to educate them on the importance of all those structures that we have to protect and preserve. And we have to generate some income to renovate those traditional structures that depict who we are as we form. Then the third thing is SODA has to keep a record of all those structures in such a way that if you go to SODA and come out, open a book, SODA can tell you that in Shish or in Kar, in Kuvlu, in Zeng, these are the important structures that if the tourists were supposed to visit, so they can see. Then the number 2 goal is recognize our cultural values, practices, and heritage. And in order to do that, we have to partner with the History Society to document this history of Nso and the geography of Nso. I was reading something just some few days ago. And the boundary between Nso and Uku was at Menfu stream. But by the 1990s, most of the edits of Uku use the Cameroon politics to shift the boundary. We used to have Simon Kov, we used to have Bonso, and the Uku people use their elites and their politicians. They named Simon Kov now as Simon Kov, which is in the Uku dialect. They rename Bonso as Bokenjaf in Uku. And if you go to most of those places now, you'll be thinking that those places belong to Uku. But originally, those were Nso areas. So we must record the geography of our region to prevent all of these things from happening. And one thing that we talk about is starting a SODA journal. SODA is so big, so many people produce articles, but we need to consolidate all those articles into a journal where we can market it and tell people who we are as we form. And in this objective, we came out with the idea that we should support the Nso literature, the arts, and our music. Once or that, we must support them. And if we support them, we are going to uphold our culture. Then the third objective, develop the lifelong sustainability of Lamso. If we don't have a language, then we don't have a culture. Just short and simple. And in order to do this, we must use Lamso as a medium of communication when we are with our kids at home. Then Mati fast unen lambara awone for la. Awas unen Lamso. When you do for cool, aye Lamso for. That's going to be one of the big key elements that we'll be looking at. And the cultural renaissance has some committee. There's going to be an advisory committee. The advisory committee will be made up of those elites those elders also, like Fonaba, we can talk of Dr. Kishane, we can talk of Professor Obeta and Shufai Bastos, Fadambui. These are the people that had invested a lot in the Nsok culture. We can use them as our advice source in building the Nsok Cultural Committee. Then we can move forward back. Then we'll go to the Nsok self-governance. And this self-governance committee will be looking at how people who knows about our tradition hierarchy, how they can better structure that for Wilfon to understand the complexity of our tradition. Then we also will focus so much on the rules of these title holders, because nowadays you see a lot of the title holders, they don't know their rules. They don't know their rules, and some of them don't want to know. So this can be a forum where we could educate them on what the rules and responsibilities are. Again, like I say, we are not replacing the traditional structures back home. We are here to fortify those structures and protect, preserve, and market our tradition. Then you can go ahead. All right. In order to do this, a lot has been documented about the Nsok tradition. But we need to consolidate the writings, the pictures, the videos under the Nsok leadership. And we can do that by partnering with the Nsok History Society, the Bernard Fonlong Society, in order to keep the records of this, our tradition. Also, we have to promote the Nsok literature. We have to promote the writing of Nsok language. And how can we do that? A lot of the education now happen over Zooms. We can hire some teachers that they can deliver lectures for people who are interested in learning the Nsok language that we are not fortunate to have learned the language. And that will be one way that we can promote about our language, the way it's written and the way it's communicated. And one of the things is that we must promote the Nsok folk tales. Mititi, one million other key mititi, I other key mama and gansi. If we have these Zoom forums, then we can promote. Some people can come over, they teach this young generation, and we could partnership with the youth committee to see how we can bring this to all of the youths on Nsok. Then there's going to be a subcommittee that's specifically for language, the Cultural Expression and Language Subcommittee. We have found out that language is the key to maintaining our culture. No language, no culture. And we cannot miss on that. So we are also going to be working on some of the social groups that, like the Chong, the Manjong, where every place when Nsok people gather, they should promote the speaking of Lamso as a medium of communication for all Wilfon. And looking at this part of it, we are going to promote the Nsok dance. How does the Nsok dance differ from the Wimbum dance? A lot of people don't know. What are the Nsok steps dance that make us so unique? We'll be promoting that. We'll be promoting the Nsok attires. This dress that I'm wearing, they used to call the Kumbekom, but now it's called the Kumbenso because Nsok has taken the dress and has modified it to suit us. So we are going to promote our own Nsok attires and the way we dress. We are going to promote our own food, the way the Nsok man will cook his own kiban and your seji is different. We are going to promote that in using videos, in photos, and in writing. If we can really come out and promote our language and look through all of this, then we can be protecting, preserving, and promoting our culture. I'm picking up as a new chair for this group, and we have had a meeting before. Former King had a meeting where we brainstorm how we can move forward with this cultural idea, with the cultural ideas and so. Now is the time that if you are listening to these presentations and you think that you can best fit in any of the committees, indicate so that we can bring you in. No need sitting on the sideline and criticizing. We are here to make so a much stronger place for all of us, a better place for all we fund, and we are here to protect, preserve our cultures, and make so project so to be one so used to be in those days. Thank you so much.